Welcome to the Middle Rio Grande Development Council PACE Outreach Forum for 2021. My name is Charlene Huttinger. I'm delighted that you could join us today. I'm the president of the Texas PACE Authority, and the Texas PACE program is one of several programs that you're going to learn about today that can help the cities and counties in the Middle Rio Grande Development Council area, along with the businesses and nonprofits in this key region of Texas. Joining us today, later in the program, is the Honorable Nick Gallegos. Nick is the Executive Director of the Middle Rio Grande Development Council and the former county judge of Edwards County, which is in this region of Texas. As you can see, the Middle Rio Grande Development Council is one of 24 regional councils in Texas, and it represents a key number of counties in the Texas border region with Mexico. Mr. Gallegos and his key staff will be sharing information later in this webinar about programs that the Middle Rio Grande Development Council offers to business, its cities, its counties, and its nonprofits. So we look forward to that. And our next speaker this morning is Eddie Trevino, the Executive Director of the State Energy Conservation Office. Eddie is a registered professional engineer and a certified energy manager with 29 years of engineering and management experience. As the Director of the State Energy Conservation Office, we call SECO, through energy efficiency, SECO helps public entities improve their working and learning environments. And in Eddie's presentation today, he is going to share with you information about the LoanSTAR program, which is a very successful revolving loan fund program that SECO has administered for over 20 years very successfully. You're also going to hear about SECO's Cool School programs. I need to apologize in advance. There was a glitch with the recording of this webinar, and we missed recording the first minute of Mr. Trevino's presentation. So join me as we join Eddie Trevino 1 minute into his excellent presentation.
Savings that result from capital improvements on your projects, and those energy savings from cause a reduction in your utility budget, and you use those energy savings to pay your principal and interest of a loan that we would provide to your entity. In K-12 schools, we've also found that many schools have aging HVAC systems, and what they want to do is replace their HVAC systems. They want to improve indoor air quality. They're finding that when you can keep up to date in the improvement of these systems and improve indoor air quality, what happens is that student absenteeism goes down. And if student absenteeism goes down because they don't have to deal with any allergies or poor lighting or other impacts of lower quality environments, then it's extra money to the district because they're paid based on student enrollment. So that's the genesis, and that's the focus of our program. Let's redirect some of these utility dollars. Let's use them for capital improvements. I'm going to show you the process of what we do in the LoanSTAR program. I'm also going to briefly talk about our Cool Schools and More request for application period that we have out right now that's targeting public K-12 schools as well. So let's go to the next slide. Here's a high-level overview of our program. We allow a maximum loan application of $8 million for an energy retrofit program. In addition to that, we allow up to 3 loans per application period. So let's say that you have a project that's a $15 million project. What you can do if you utilize our LoanSTAR program you can break that up into 2 projects, into 2 separate loans, and you could actually get an $8 million loan and a $7 million loan. So there's a lot of capacity for both K-12 schools and local governments to make major improvements and capital improvements on their properties with this kind of money. All of our loans have a loan simple payback requirement of less than or equal to 15 years. Whenever we complete, or you complete, an investment grade audit, we call it a utility assessment report. A simple payback for a composite project is calculated. That simple payback becomes your loan term. So if you do a utility assessment report and the simple payback is 13 years, then you'll have a loan that will pay for itself in 13 years, and that'll be our loan term. In addition, we have individual requirements for each measure of the loan. Each measure of the loan has to pay back within the estimated useful life of a loan. For example, we know that lighting pays for itself, or the estimated useful life of lighting is somewhere between 7 and 10 years. So if you have a retrofit that includes lighting, that means that measure has to pay for itself within that 7 to 10 year period. So it has to make financial sense. And by doing that, what that does is that every element of the project makes financial sense. So that after the fact, if you ever get questioned by board members or city council members why you did what you did, you can defend the loan and say, hey, not only did the overall loan make financial sense, each measure within the loan also made financial sense. So there are no pet projects within this loan. They're all there for a reason. And as you can see, we allow a maximum number of loans per application period. That's 3. So let's say that you have a project that's a $3 million project. Later in the year, after you complete that project, you realize, well, I've got another project that I want to get done. Well, you can submit a separate application because we allow 3 applications per application period. We have an open application period. It's a first come, first serve. It generally opens in October of each year, and it closes at the end of our state fiscal year, which is August 31st of 2021. Our interest rate on our loans, they're really low. In our general fund, our interest rate's 2% annually. In our ARA loan, our interest rate is 1% annually. And it's 1% because there's a heavy lift in terms of reporting requirements. So there's extra room created so that you could possibly have a loan manager included as part of the loan in order to manage all the paperwork associated with that funding source. And like I said earlier, all loans are on a first come, first served basis. We generally have a lot of applications come in towards the end of our application period. So that means that between May and August, we'll have a flurry of loans coming in before this application period ends. So you have a project in mind, we'd be happy to talk to you about it, give you more details on what the requirements are in terms of our technical requirements, in terms of our loan application requirements. We'd be more than happy to talk to you. So let's go to the next slide. We also have another program that's called the Cool Schools and More. This one is not a first come, first serve application. In fact, it's got a defined application period. And as you can see, the loan application period for this particular program, it closes on June 16th. As you can see, the maximum loan size per application is $500,000. This is a rooftop replacement program targeting K-12 schools. It also includes the opportunity to add air filtration as part of this rooftop loan program as well. The interest rate is 0.25%. You're not going to get much lower than that. our loan program period for this particular loan is fixed at 12 years. That'll be the payback period. So it's a great opportunity for all school districts, in particular smaller school districts and underserved school districts. It's a great opportunity for them to update their rooftop replacement and have this done so that when we all go back to school next year, that you have a facility with a really good learning environment for the students as well as for the teachers. These are scored applications. We have on our website, you can find, I'll show you in a couple of minutes, where you can find the applications and additional information associated with these particular applications. So next slide. As a general guide, we loan to public taxpayer supported entities. So that includes K-12 schools, local and county governments, public universities, junior colleges, and also state agencies. Our basic fundamental loan qualification is that the improvement has to be permanently affixed to the property, and the borrower has to own and occupy that property. So if you meet those first two criteria, then you're an eligible borrower. We have third-party review. These are contracts that we have entered into with professional service engineering firms. They review all of our application submittals and all of our utility assessment reports that are required with each application. They also visit the site at least 3 times during the process of the loan. They'll visit it at the very beginning when the application is submitted and the utility assessment report has been submitted for review. They'll also visit the site during construction at 50% and 100%. So we keep a close eye on all of our loans. We do that to protect our financial interest. By default, by doing that, it also protects your interest as well. Next slide. As you can see, we've had 325 loans, over $546 million since this program started. Average annual savings on our loans, $231,000, and we have savings that have been provided to these public entities of $647 million. We've never had a default in the history of our loan program. Part of that reason is because of our submittal requirements. Another part of that is because of our third-party review during the entire process of the loan program. I've provided a loan recap that you can read and see the average size loans and the average payback for each loan. Local governments as well as K-12 schools have been big participants in our loan program. Next slide. Here's our process. In blue, you see this is our application process. In green, you see this is the construction process after a loan has been fully executed. In our application process, we have our application as well as the requirement, ultimately, of a utility assessment report. This is the equivalent of an investment grade audit, but it's completed using prescriptive guidelines that we've developed over the years. Our third-party reviewers review those utility assessment reports. They visit the site as part of their review. And when they tell us that this project is fundamentally sound, meaning that it meets our LoanSTAR requirements and it also is fair and in terms of cost, and all of our elements, again, are adhered to, they'll send us a letter. We'll, at that point, complete a loan agreement and we'll send it to the borrower for execution. And for execution, will then fully execute the loan agreement, which means that you as a borrower are good to go for your design process. We'll always have a kickoff meeting with all of our loans, and that way we have a clear understanding of the reimbursement process. All of our loans are reimbursement based, which means you incur the cost and you submit those incurred costs to us for reimbursement. And you can see again all of our third-party involvement during the construction period. Once you're at 100% complete and you're ready to pay back retainage, we'll have our third-party engineers do a final completion report based on their 100% site inspection. And then they'll tell us, hey, this is a good project. It met LoanSTAR requirements. Everything is operating properly. You've received all of your warranty information. At that point, you'll make your final reimbursement request for retainage. We'll reimburse that reimbursement request, and we'll place the project into a repayment status. All of our repayments are quarterly based on the state quarters. We'll send you a loan repayment schedule, and you're off to the races in repayment there. And then everybody's got their improved working and learning environment, and you should be ready to go. Next slide. You can see by the URL address provided at the top of the screen, this is where you find information on our loan program. We have two areas to pay attention to. The first is the news and announcements. There you can see the recorded webinar for our Cool Schools and More loan program. You can also see where you can find our Cool Schools and More loan program, as well as find where you can submit applications into our LoanSTAR program. I've also highlighted the funding and incentives column in that header, and that's another link to get you to our funding opportunities. So pay attention to those. There's a place to sign up on that webpage for announcements of all of our funding opportunities. If you'll sign up for those, then you don't have to visit the site on a regular basis. We'll automatically send you notification when a new funding opportunity is released. Next slide. Again, if you click on our funding opportunities page, you'll get taken to this page, and you'll see this is where you find a hyperlink for our Cool Schools and More application. You'll find a second hyperlink for our LoanSTAR program application and additional program information. Again, at the bottom of the page, be sure to sign up to receive notifications. This will really save you a lot of time going forward. And next slide. If you have any questions or want to talk more about the program, send me an email. I'd be happy to set up a meeting and tell you whatever you need to know about the program, share our experiences about the program, and let you know the types of projects that borrowers typically undertake in the program. Be more than happy to spend time with you. So just send me an email, be happy to help. And Charlene, that concludes my presentation. I'll turn it back over to you.
Thank you, Eddie. That was absolutely wonderful. Again, these are tremendous opportunities for local governments and local public servants to reduce costs so they can have better buildings, but also put more operating income into the core mission, which is what we're all about in trying to reduce demand for energy and water by helping organizations become more profitable in the mix as well. So my name is Charlene Huttinger. I'm the president of the Texas PACE Authority. In 2012, I also became the executive director of the Keeping Pace in Texas, the organization that got the Texas PACE Act through the legislature and signed by Governor Perry in 2013. And this has been a labor of love since then. I'm an attorney, but the most rewarding part of this endeavor has been to collaboratively work with so many stakeholders across the state to make this opportunity possible. And it's a real joy to share this with you today. So what are we trying to do? What's the problem we're trying to solve here? Well, whether you're a public entity or a company or a nonprofit, when you need a new HVAC system or a new roof, the contractor will come in and tell you and show you all the savings that you're going to achieve. But as the group that's going to have to pay for the new HVAC system or the new roof, you're going to see 5 years of pain before you can get to those savings. Lenders traditionally, when they're loaning on this type of equipment, it's a risky loan for them. They don't know how long you're going to be in business. They don't know how long you're going to own that property, and they can't come and take the roof or the HVAC system if you don't pay. So they want to be paid back in 5 years or less, which means you have to pay for the whole improvement before you can ever enjoy any of the savings. Property assessed clean energy is an economic development tool that a county or a city can create for its businesses and nonprofits. And if it does, what happens is that the loan payment is stretched over a long period of time. A lien is placed on the land, which is much better collateral for the lender. And what happens then is you get a series of much smaller payments over time. And those payments are here in green because as Eddie mentioned with the LoanSTAR program, which has been a model for the Texas PACE program, is that the savings exceed the cost over the life of this property assessment financing. So these projects literally pay for themselves. So just take a step back a minute and look at this from a high level perspective. The PACE financing program can be used only where a county or city has created it. And in this area of Texas, Eagle Pass does have a PACE program. And we hope many others will create one as well. And if they do, then the businesses and nonprofits in those areas have access to 100% financing. Now, this does not come from the local government. This comes from a private lender. The local government is simply creating the mechanism that allows this to happen. That financing can be used for energy efficiency, water efficiency, or creating power on site, often called distributed generation, but that includes solar, combined heat and power, microgrids, and other technologies. The financing is available for commercial properties, and that includes nonprofits, industrial properties, which includes not only manufacturing, but also agriculture, and multifamily properties. So think about apartment complexes with at least 5 units. So the state created the law in 2013, local governments created Texas PACE Authority, where I work, is a nonprofit that was created to administer programs for local governments at no cost to the local government. It does not require any staff commitment from the local government. We do this as a public service at the lowest possible cost. And this is a voluntary program. No property owner needs to use it. But if they do, they have all the power to select the people they want to do business with in the way they want to do business. This is a very free market, flexible program. And the role of Texas PACE Authority as the PACE administrator is to make sure that the projects meet the requirements and also to do education and outreach like today so that people know about the program. So let me give you an example of how this is working. This is in Amarillo. The Barfield building was a beautiful historic building built in Amarillo right on Route 66 in 1926, which is the year Route 66 went through Amarillo as well. So lovely office building, but as you can see, it's been vacant for 25 years. Missing windows, all boarded up. a real eyesore in the center of Amarillo. Developers came in, they tried to turn it into condos, they tried to do any number of things, but it is expensive to take a vacant building and bring it back to life. And most of the time, people aren't able to make that work financially. So the city of Amarillo created a PACE program. Developers came in immediately and bought that building, and they used the PACE program as part of the capital stack to get enough funds to buy that building and to fix it up. So we are excited to show you that what was once impossible to renovate is now going to be a Marriott Autograph Hotel, and it will it's already changing the buildings around it, and it's going to be a beautiful centerpiece in the city. The other thing I want to show you about this is that not only are there terrific savings for the operators of that new hotel, but in order to purchase it, because of its historic nature, the owners also received $9 million in historic tax credits. So we tell people when they're renovating these buildings, use PACE, but marry it with every other incentive that's out there that that building qualifies for. PACE complements everything else that's out there. So you'll see PACE used with opportunity zones and new market tax credits, historic tax credits, solar credits, utility incentives. And you'll see a little bit later, we've even got a project that was financed in part by a USDA Rural Energy for America program, a REAP program grant. So we hope to be a part of some very thoughtful ways to finance these improvements. So let me show you another visual for how this works. On the left, there's this conventional financing where you have to pay everything back in 5 years. I call that the Tower of Pain. And you'll see that it blocks the access of the property owner to the utility savings that are going to result from that investment. But that Tower of Pain is a barrier that makes it almost impossible for most businesses to be able to address the deferred maintenance in their buildings. All PACE is doing, if a local government creates this program, all they're really doing is knocking that tower over. So now as an option, you still have to repay the cost of these assessments, but you do it in smaller installments over a longer period of time, and you get immediate access to the savings so that you can use those savings to pay for the project. Here's another example, and I wanted to show you this chart because in this building, as with all of the PACE projects in Texas, the savings are used to pay for the project. So the problem that we're overcoming by knocking over that repayment in 5 years or less is that we make we access the savings early on. So we're overcoming the cash flow issue that prevents people from being able to make these improvements. So you'll see that this building in Houston had 1.3 million in a new HVAC system and LED lights. And they also did their parking lot lights, which can create huge savings for businesses and nonprofits. Had they funded the 1.3 million upfront, you can see from the yellow line that it would have taken them almost 9 years to break even and to get a return on their investment, which is way longer than any investor is going to be willing to accept. So then had they borrowed money in the traditional 5-year plan, they would have added interest payments to that cost. And you can see from the red line that that would have stretched out their return on investment to 10 years. And this is the barrier that we're trying to overcome, the cash flow harm to an organization that happens when they're forced to take money out of the core business to deal with the property. And then the blue line is PACE, which avoids all of that issue. So finally, let's look at what is happening in Texas. So you're learning about PACE at a wonderful time, because we have been, over the last 5 years, able to show the impact of PACE and show that it really works, and to demonstrate how many different types of properties are benefiting from PACE. So about 2 weeks ago in Texas, the investment in PACE crossed the $150 million mark. I also want to show you where we are. So you can see Eagle Pass in your area, but the Texas PACE Authority now serves 57 local governments across Texas, both counties and cities. We are very excited to be able to bring this program to all of Texas. That was our commitment, and we would like to work with you to make sure that the Middle Rio Grande Development Council counties are included in this program. So how does it work? The building owner has all the power. They select their own contractors, they decide what projects they want to accomplish, and they identify their own lenders. On our website is a list of 25 or so lenders that are ready to go today, but we will work with any lender, and our goal is to promote this program with local banks and credit unions to try and increase their involvement as stakeholders to benefit from this program as well. So we know that if a good customer comes in with a good project, our hope is that the mortgage holder, and if there's no mortgage, then any other local lender will also become a PACE lender. But there are plenty of lenders out there, and we want the property owner to work with the people that they want to do business with in the way that they choose to do business. So when all of that project work is organized, they apply to the Texas PACE Authority. And then on behalf of the local government, there's a contract between the owner and the local government. And this is what is the voluntary part that places the assessment on the property itself. The local government signs a contract with the lender to provide that funding. The capital is provided, the contractors do the work, and then the owner sends the installment payments directly to the lender so that we don't burden the local government. There's a firewall between these two activities. So Texas PACE Authority does not develop deals so that there's full transparency in what we do. If we're providing objective oversight, then we can't very well be reviewing our own projects. So we want the private sector to put these projects together because you know your business the best. We want local contractors, architects, engineers, and lenders to be involved in these projects because we're trying to create local economy. And when you think about it, when a property owner decides, I need a new roof, or I need a new HVAC system, or I'm going to go get a new boiler, or I want to put solar on my roof, I'm going to swap out all my toilets, or in a food processing warehouse, we're going to have more water efficient equipment. All of those items have to be manufactured somewhere, and someone has to deliver that product, someone has to install it, somebody's got to feed those folks, somebody's got to maintain that equipment. So we are creating jobs and economy. We're not just fixing up buildings. There's a whole new benefit to the community that goes way beyond improving one building. If that building is abandoned and it is brought back to life through this program, then we're also creating permanent jobs within that building. So when we looked at that Barfield building, which is now going to be a hotel in Amarillo, when that reopens, not only is it going back on the tax rolls in a significant way for the local community, but there will be 55 permanent hotel jobs created in what was a vacant building. So there's a lot of wonderful things that happen in communities that have this program. So PACE in a box, what is this? When Governor Perry signed the bill in 2014, there was a huge coalition of groups that had supported it, business organizations, banker organizations, environmental organizations, local government organizations, and we all looked at each other and said, are we done? Well, the answer was no, because in Texas, there are 254 counties, almost 1,200 municipalities. And we knew that if everybody went their own way, this program really would not be able to take off in Texas. And there might be a couple programs in big cities, but they would be expensive and it would be confusing. So the group decided we need to create a plug and play program of best practices for local governments. We call it PACE in a Box. It took a year to create, but our main goals from day one were that it had to be uniform, that people in Texas should only have to learn one program. It had to be user-friendly, which meant it had to be understandable and cost-effective. It had to scale, which is why Texas PACE Authority has worked so hard to serve so many parts of Texas. So there's only one overhead that is shared across the state, and that it had to be sustainable. So Texas PACE Authority gets its revenue from grants and from a user fee paid by the property owners who take advantage of the program. We don't use any taxpayer dollars. So the fact that we provide only the services that government must provide, and we don't compete against the local market or provide services that we want local businesses to provide on a competitive basis, means that our costs can be kept pretty low. We had hoped that governments would be able to do this program in-house, but that has not turned out to be the case. So we do this as a nonprofit in a public servant manner, and it is our real privilege to do so. But we operate under this PACE in a Box program. So from the local government's perspective, no taxpayer dollars are used. There's no risk to the Treasury. There's no risk to the public servants working on the PACE program, and we're not creating a bureaucracy locally. Secondly, from a fiduciary standpoint, we try and build strong local stakeholder support. The whole point of the program is for local businesses and nonprofits to be able to take advantage of it. We have best practices in consumer protection, both in terms of underwriting, making sure organizations can repay this financing from the savings, and then technologically making sure that an engineer, a third-party independent engineer, reviews the project to assure everyone, the lenders and the property owners, that the savings are going to be there to repay for the assessment. And then if the worst happens, all of the government costs in collecting a missed payment, not the entire financing amount, but the missed payment, any government involvement in that, all of the costs are covered. So this does not impose any costs on local government. If a local government wants to create the program, the statute lays out 4 steps for doing that. The documents are all, the model documents are available and easily modified for any city or county that wants to create the program. So I hope you'll reach out to us. The effort is to make this as easy as possible and to provide the highest quality program in Texas. And so if you decide to move forward on this, you would be adopting the same program as the other 57 local governments. Here's an example from El Paso. This was, most people don't realize that Mr. Hilton was from El Paso, but this is the first Hilton high-rise. It too had been empty for 25 years. And it is being redone, and it will reopen as the Plaza Pioneer Park Hotel in El Paso. It will be a source of 161 full-time permanent jobs when it reopens. The assessment, the PACE assessment total, and so what we're seeing is developers are using the PACE program when they buy these beautiful old buildings. They buy them and they have to raise enough money not only to purchase the property, but also to fix it up, to renovate it. And so we call that the capital stack. They find sources of funding from different places, and PACE is becoming a piece of these capital stacks at purchase. So you'll see this was a $9.2 million PACE project. This property also received historic tax credits. but you'll see the amazing amount of annual savings, $254,000 in annual savings every year for water and energy, but also the significant reduction in the amount of CO2 that this building would have otherwise pumped into the air every year. So we are helping on an economic basis, but also on an environmental basis. And what is exciting about properties along the border in the Middle Rio Grande Development Council region is, with all of the transportation back and forth across the border, there are tons of warehouses and lots of roof space, and you have a lot of sun. So, the ways that we want to help all of these properties are, you can create your own power, but also if we can get property owners the financing that they need to improve the envelope of these buildings, they will save significant amounts on their utility bills. So what do I mean by the envelope of the building? Buildings, if they have dark roofs, are unnecessarily absorbing heat. If you've got old light bulbs, the reason we have to have the lights off when we change those bulbs is they get really hot. They create heat. The new LED bulbs do not create that heat, so they're more energy efficient, but they're not warming up the building. A new roof that reflects the heat is not warming up the building. That means the air conditioning system can work less, except that if you haven't looked at your insulation in the attic, or the windows are thin, or the windows are leaking, and you're air conditioning your sidewalks, then your air conditioning system is working too hard. So if you can tighten up the envelope of the building, when you go to replace the air conditioning system, you may be able to have less air conditioning required because it doesn't have to work so hard. So, or your solar will create power, that power will go further and be more benefit that the people in that building, because it's not creating power that's being wasted, either by heating an overheated, by cooling an overheated building, or by creating air conditioning that's just running out into the street. So envelope is important, and we're hoping that with all of the incredible opportunity in the region that that this program can serve lots of different ways. I wanted to focus on nonprofit, whether it's a religious organization, a congregation, or a nonprofit that provides services, or even beautiful old historic theaters. We're seeing the use of PACE in the nonprofit community in a significant way. And what's very meaningful about that is that core mission dollars can stay with the mission. And we find that in these capital projects, the hardest money to raise from donors is for things like a boiler, air conditioner, the things that people don't see. You can't put somebody's name on a boiler. Well, you can, but nobody will see it. And so if you can use PACE for these capital improvements that really are not very exciting from a donor's perspective, then you've got equipment that pays for itself, and that financing can match donor financing and make projects that are extremely difficult to complete now can be doable in a very real way. Another project in El Paso, the Cielo Vista Mall, you can see that in this retail property used chillers, pumps, controls. There's no reason to be running the air conditioning 24/7 in a mall that's not open all night. So let's have controls to reduce those costs for lights and air conditioning. They added LED exterior lights in the parking lot, and then controls for the lights as well. So that was a $2.3 million project that is going to pay for itself. This was our first post-Harvey hurricane housing, and it's a $4 million project to address a very real need in the multifamily housing situation, which is desperately needed across Texas. So we are excited about that. This is on the upper right, you'll see an old vacant motor court hotel that is going to become 307 studio apartments in East Austin, an area where affordable housing is incredibly important. On the left, that's a 1910 mercantile warehouse in Dallas that had been vacant for quite a while. The developers of that had to raise $115 million to buy it and renovate it. And you'll see in the blue column that in order to renovate it properly, they were going to have to borrow $22 million at 15% interest. They learned about PACE, got rid of that loan, replaced it with a PACE loan, and dropped their weighted average cost of capital. They dropped the interest rate to buy this building by almost 2%. Those savings are in addition to the annual 40% energy savings and the 700,000 gallons of water that they're going to save in that project every year. That's the largest PACE project in Texas. Now you're looking at the smallest PACE project in Texas. This is solar and LED lighting for a paint and body shop in Dallas. We are excited about this one. This was our first Hispanic PACE project owner, and we are just as excited about the smaller project as we are the larger ones. We've also done a number of small office buildings. This one was built in 1985. And what we're seeing is buildings that were built in 1985, the air conditioning systems are basically shot and people are having trouble getting parts for them anymore. And so equipment must be replaced, and PACE is a wonderful way to finance that. So this was the company that owned the building was a single tenant. And so they did solar, thermostats, roof, and new HVAC. This was our first industrial project. We're very excited about this. This is a Hager sewing plant. Men don't wear suits so much anymore. This had been empty for 10 years. Corsicana is a town southeast of Dallas. Navarro County got a call from the Levy Company in Missouri, who had been doing site visits in Texas, and the company told the county, if you create a PACE program, we will buy that building. We sew cheerleader uniforms and sports uniforms, and that building is exactly what we need. So the county created the program, the company purchased the building, and what had been an empty building is now the home of 60 manufacturing jobs, permanent jobs. And so this was HVAC and LED lighting. This is a fun project. This building is in downtown Temple, Texas, north of Austin, and it will become apartments, much needed apartments. We closed this one last year. Some of you may recognize the Falstaff Brewery in Galveston, also abandoned for many years. It's a couple blocks from where the cruise ships dock in Galveston, and it's going to become a hotel. So PACE is a win-win-win situation. The local government wins, the property owner wins, the contractors and local lenders win, the state wins, and there's very little risk. There's a little more work involved because we have to know that the savings are going to be there to pay for these projects, but it's a common sense way to be able to fix up buildings and property without having to lay anybody off. So we are excited to share this with you. We hope your local communities will create the program, and we would love to help you with that. And we hope you'll take advantage of SECO's programs for your own buildings, the government buildings as well. And Eddie and I are here to answer your questions. So please let us know what questions you have. You can put them in the chat box, or you can put them in the Q&A box, but we would love to answer any questions that you have. Okay, Eddie, while we're waiting to see if there are any questions, is there anything that you want to add to the discussion?
Hi, Charlene, this is Eddie. A lot of times as people get closer in their thoughts on moving forward with either PACE or LoanSTAR or any of our other funding opportunities, I know for us, it's not unusual to meet with these participants ahead of time just to get more fundamental information. I was wondering if it was the same thing with you, and I see Michelle also has a question.
You know what, I was so busy trying to figure out how to bring Michelle on that, Eddie, that I didn't hear. Can you ask your question again?
Yeah, it's not unusual for us to have potential borrowers contact us, wanting to learn more about the program, wanting to learn the ins and outs. Actually, you know, if they have questions in the application, calling us. If they have questions, just, you know, being interactive so we can help them one step at a time through the process. I was wondering if the experiences were the same with PACE.
Yes, one of the challenges about this program is getting the word out. This is a great program that not enough people know about. And so that is something we struggle with, and we just are always encouraging people to reach out. Both the SECO website and the Texas PACE Authority website are rich with materials, but answering questions is often the best way to get to those details. Michelle, you're unmuted. What's your question?
Charlene, good morning. Actually, I don't have a question. We weren't able to log on through Mr. Gallegos' presenter invite. So he's actually here with me right now.
Oh, great. Great.
I apologize. I went to the eye doctor, and the eye doctor was late. I wasn't. It was the eye doctor that kept me making it on time. So it's his fault. But I apologize, and thank you so much for putting this on. It was very informative. When I came in, Eddie was, you know, in the quarter of the way in the presentation. It was great, Eddie. I really liked it. And we, as you, I don't know if y'all know, we covered 9 counties all the way from Cotulla, LaSalle County, all the way to Edwards on the north side, and along the border, like you were talking about, Mavic and Valverde. We also have, you know, our region is awesome. Of course, we have the Kickapoo tribal nation. We have Mexico on the other side, and then of course it's 3 nations. We have the Amistad in Valverde. We have a whole lot of resources. Tourism is great in this area, and I've got Michelle and Karina here. Michelle is a planning and operations director, and Karina is a workforce director, and how they just stepped up to the challenge, and we're trying to improve the quality of life in our region. So we get to work with nine county judges, all the mayors that are in this region. So it's a, you know, it's a great region, and I'll let Michelle, you know, go over some of the programs that she has. We don't have a fancy presentation like y'all did. We were not prepared. I apologize. But Michelle has a wealth of information, and Karina as well on the workforce and child care programs that we provide for the 9 county region. So Michelle is out of Eagle Pass. She's been with us for 8 years.
8 years.
8 years. And I'll let her go over some of the programs that she covers, and it's a whole slew of programs. So Michelle.
Well, I'll try to be brief with my programs. I know we're restricted to time, but so I actually oversee our 211 information department. And that's when people have, like if they're looking for any type of assistance, whether it be with light or water, or even if they're trying to get a hold of Medicaid or Medicare, you know, they dial that 211. We do have staff that answer those 211 calls. We also have our 911 department, our 911, they are in charge of making sure that all the addresses within our 9 counties are up and going, that they're correct in our system so that the first responders don't have any difficulties trying to find these people whenever they're calling in, you know, for assistance through dispatch. We have our Homeland Security program where we take care of the interoperability system for the radio communication towers within our 9 county region. We have our criminal justice program where we assist municipalities. We're actually like the in-between between the public safety office with the office of the governor and our local municipalities, that we assist them in trying to get funding for whether it be their law enforcement or victim services or juvenile services. We also do the law enforcement training academy, so we can provide continuing education to our law enforcement officers. Once in a while, we will also sponsor a peace officer. So we would be able to pay their entire tuition to become a peace officer.
Wow.
We do have our TCQ program as well, where we assist the 9 county region trying to expand the landfills by either doing some type of recycling program. We have our CDBG, where we administer grants to the Texas Department of Agriculture. We assist the 9 counties as well in applying for this funding, and then we administer those grants for them, whether it be community enhancement, whether it be a water project, a sewer project, street project. It just depends what type of project they are looking into receiving. We also do have our EDA program. So right now we did receive special funding through the EDA CARES, where we do have 2 of our EDA planners that actually are working hand in hand with businesses to develop a resiliency plan for our SEDS document. With that resiliency plan, it will help in the future if there's ever a pandemic. We will be able to have resources for these businesses that were affected by COVID, to where they might not have such a big impact as they were impacted this first time. So we're hoping to have that plan up and going by May of next year. So that's just pretty much some of the programs that I oversee. Like Mr. Gallegos had mentioned, Karina Salas, who's our workforce director, she deals with the workforce side of Middle Rio Grande, and she can tell you a little bit about her programs. Karina?
Charlene, and after hearing your presentation, I was telling Michelle there was some ideas that were going through our minds. That's a wonderful program that you have, and
Well, thank you.
partnership and start working with you. And then Michelle has, through EDA, you know, and USDA, they can combine that funding and see how we can start, you know, working together on that. But on the workforce, it's critical because as time goes by, you know, they do all that. But Karina, you know, after the jobs come in, that's where she gets people into the work. I was impressed with El Paso, how many jobs you were creating there. So on the 161 jobs, Karina's job is the same. She's been with us 27 years, Karina?
Yeah.
27 years, and she works closely with the Chamber of Commerce throughout the region, and how the new businesses that are coming in, how they can, you know, work together in that sense. So Karina, you want to talk about some of the programs that you have?
Yes, good morning. We oversee the employment and training and childcare programs. We are here to assist our customers. We have 6 centers. We are open to the public. We are doing in-person and virtual. Our programs that consist of career and training. Any demand occupation in our area, will go ahead and sponsor the individual if they qualify for our programs. And it could be from being a professional truck driver, a nurse, RN, linemen. So if they're eligible for our program, we'll go ahead and sponsor. We send them to training, and after training, of course, we help them with job search assistance. Now, if individuals don't want training, then we help them with job search assistance. They go to our center. We do have job club that we offer at our 6 centers. and we have job readiness for our individuals, for our job seekers. Right now, we currently have a program that is for the individuals that were dislocated due to COVID, and then we're having another one due to the winter storm that we had in February. This program is we're placing individuals at work sites, and we're doing 1,000 hours or 6 months, whichever comes first. And we actually paying whatever the employer is offering to their regular employees. So those are the programs that we have right now. We have also a summer youth program that we're going to be having starting next month. This is for youth that are from the ages of 14 to 24. And this is for the 9 region area that we cover. Now, for the individuals that are seeking employment and we do help them with job search and they get employed, then we offer the childcare program. We have the childcare for the individuals that cannot afford and meet the criteria for childcare, and we assist with the childcare also.
Wow, that is wonderful. Yes, we would love to work closely with the Middle Rio Grande Development Council, and I'm sure SECO feels the same way. We don't want to speak with Eddie, he's right here, but all of these programs complement each other. And so, and now that COVID is ending and we're closer to being able to meet in person, we welcome every opportunity to do that. Your region is critical to the success of Texas. It's beautiful, and we'd love to serve it.
Charlene, if possible, let me get with our chairman. He's the judge in Maverick County, Judge Saucedo, and maybe if you check your schedule, maybe you can make a presentation during our board meeting. I think you'll have all the mayors and judges at that moment. I think there's some online right now. I heard from Kinney County there was going to be a couple of folks there online, but it would be good if you could come down and we could promote that. While you were talking, I asked Michelle. She thought about Laredo, and I thought about Eagle Pass. There's some old buildings, of course, everywhere. There's an industrial park in Maverick County that could use all that upgrading. I'm going to say it, but let's visit about it. I was really intrigued by your presentation.
Well, thank you very much. We appreciate it. I don't see any other questions today, but I think rounding out the webinar with this information from Nick, from you and your staff, has just been perfect. So thank you. I'm sorry you had trouble logging on earlier. I saw you trying.
I was, but like I said, it was my eye doctor's fault. It wasn't mine, Charlie. I got there 15 minutes early, and then he waited, and I waited and waited, and finally he showed up. So it was an hour away, so that's why I had to. I even sped along the way. So if there's any troopers out there, or please forgive me. I don't do that at all. But thank you so much. I was really impressed with the presentations and everything that y'all do. Eddie, it was a great presentation. The first quarter, I can't talk about that one, but the 3 quarters was perfect.
Well, thank you so much. And thank you for making sure the 4th quarter was the winner. So we will visit with everyone soon. Please reach out to the Development Council, to Texas PACE Authority, and to the State Energy Conservation Office. We all look forward to serving the region.